When our son Sean, who surprised us taking the red eye from San Francisco to be here this morning, was in 8th or 9th grade, we received an invitation to a presentation by his youth and philanthropy class. At the risk of sounding like a disinterested parent, I didn't know much about this elective that he was taking, and I didn't really know what to expect of the presentation. But I attended along with other parents and was blown away. This was a group of a dozen or so 13-ish year old boys. I can still picture the scene. They rushed to get to the presentation after a full day of classes. They were still sweating from afternoon sports. Their hair was all over the place. They were tucking in their shirts hastily. All seemed a bit scattered. And then the presentation began. And what was on display throughout was maturity, passion, a depth of understanding, and absolute clarity of purpose. They had been both weighted down and lifted up by the responsibility of distributing $5,000 to a worthy nonprofit. Their collective demeanor was serious and very compelling as they proceeded to describe the nonprofit organizations they had visited in order to make an informed decision on whether and how much they would donate to each organization. They walked us through the research they had done, the issues that were raised as they sought consensus among them, and the final decision they carefully came to. Impressive and inspiring. When I found out that this fabulously effective program, taught by Jennifer Ubaldino, was developed by the Foundation for MetroWest, where we had lived for 20 years, I joined the distribution committee of the foundation and was swept away by the breadth and the strength of the mission the foundation has to improve services provided and quality of life for the residents of the 32 towns that make up MetroWest. Not only was I exposed to the top-down environment of excellence at the foundation under Judy Salerno's and now Jay Kim's leadership, but on-site visits where we got to meet with nonprofits who had applied for grants to the foundation, I saw the extreme dedication, the passion, the tireless investment of time and energy made by so many directors, staffs, and volunteers of the nonprofits in the region, focused on family services and also on arts and culture and the environment. I can tell you there are a lot of rock stars out there that are getting very little and not looking for any recognition. Those site visits were truly humbling and awe-inspiring. And Paul and I loved the idea of giving locally and making a difference in our own backyard. And Sean's experience in youth and philanthropy woke us up to our responsibility as parents to foster our children's engagement in philanthropy. So we established some modest donor-advised funds for our kids at the foundation, hoping that it would nourish their understanding of philanthropy and empower them to be thoughtful givers. As our daughter Jacqueline highlighted when she hosted this breakfast with me several years ago, the earlier you get people thinking about the needs of the communities they're part of and the role that philanthropy can or does play in those communities, the more opportunities you're creating for someone to become hooked and to pursue that interest over the course of their life, whether through volunteering, donating, or making a career of it. Ensuring that it continues for years to come has everything to do with how youth are being engaged in philanthropy today.
So you would think, after all these years, that I would know better than to speak after Patty. And then speaking after Patty and Jared and others, it's like, how did I end up in this place in the lineup? Renee, what's the gig here? It's like, talk about sabotaging the old guy, right? But our story is, well, actually, I should also say that we were somewhat intrepid when we were asked by the foundation to accept this honor. And we really were, and we had a difficult time with it. But I have to say, today, it feels fabulous. To have your friends and your family here being nice to you, boy, that's wonderful. So there were two primary attributes that struck a chord for me when Patty suggested I become exposed to YIP. One is what I will call the leverage embedded in the program. What do I mean by that? Well, as Carolyn and Renee proceeded to grow the YIP program by increasing the number of schools carrying it, engaging YIP alums, and establishing the YIP board, they had a multiplier impact on the beneficiaries of the program, that is, the students and the nonprofit grantees. They have now fostered greater awareness, critical thinking, and a framework for philanthropy for thousands of students over the past 25 years, some to many of whom will spread that charitable orientation further down through the generations that succeed them. That was the opportunity for exponential leverage that I got excited about. And the second attribute that attracted me to YIP was that it provided an important opportunity to expose our children and others like them to the reality of life for those less advantaged, as well as simultaneously exposing them to some big-hearted people trying to improve those lives. I think it is fair to say that our children, and I suspect this likely applies to the children of many of you in this room this morning, were raised in somewhat of a privileged setting, without the benefit of being made overtly aware of just how difficult day-to-day life can be for those less fortunate, many of whom are actually living in our own towns, but unfortunately are largely out of sight. While we can try to explain that to our children at the dinner table, they can't really see or feel that. They can only hear it from us. And we all know how far preaching gets a parent. Right, Jacqueline? YIP is a program where our children get to see and feel a different reality and at the same time experience some of humanity's best. With so much negativity in our world today, Patty and I feel fortunate to have invested in a program that exposes our youth to the value of philanthropy and instills in them a positive, action-oriented approach to their future. Jared, Emma, and Casey are certainly great examples of the return on that investment. While I would like to express our sincere thanks to Jay and the Foundation for giving us this honor, Patty and I believe in the adage that it is a lot easier to give of one's treasure than it is of one's finite resource of time. And yet so many are giving of the latter, or even both. And our gratitude goes to them, as they are the ones who actually deserve this tribute today. By virtue of all of you being here today and making that donation of your valuable time in support of the foundation, you, each one of you, are expressing that you care about the proverbial greater good. And if you fall in that fortunate category of having financial resources, please consider supporting the Youth and Philanthropy program here at the Foundation for the MetroWest. Lastly, many thanks to the family and friends who joined us here today. Your effort and support is greatly appreciated by Patty and me. Thank you.